Welcome back to Hoochos. Today on Hoochos, we're going to build this. This is a miniature 3D printable wicking auto refill hydroponic system. And this is a miniature diorama of the original Hoochos puck hydroponic system, complete with a miniature fern, miniature floki, miniature Ragnar, and a miniature Radagast, as well as a miniature Hoocho and some incredible foreshadowing. We'll get to that a bit later, but first let's have a look at the new miniature hydroponic system 3D printable design. Okay, so when I was imagining this miniature hydroponic system, I wanted to create something akin to the rain gutter grow systems outside, just a smaller version, where it would automatically top up as required. The obstacle that I needed to overcome was the size of the float valve and how I couldn't fit this large float valve into a small version of the rain gutter grow system. To overcome this obstacle, I wanted to have a reservoir upside down that would fill a pipe as the plants transpired the water and nutrients. The reason I chose a Coke bottle is because it's probably one of the most widely available reservoirs for everyone to use. So I ended up settling on this design here. Now this design is based on this pipe size here, this pipe being a 43 millimeter PVC pipe. And if you like, you can scale this up or down to the pipe size that's available to you with some quick maths. This design here just fits your Coca-Cola bottle upside down and allows you to plug in your pipe like so. We've also got an end cap here that blocks the opposite end of the pipe so that the nutrient doesn't escape. To fit onto this miniature hydroponic system, we have these. Now, obviously not at this size. This is the full size print for the round pipe hooch bucket. But if we scale that down, we get these. This is scaled down to 43% of the original print size. The original print size was to fit a 100 millimeter pipe, and you just scale that to whatever the size pipe you're using for this system. These hooch buckets just fit into the system like so and wick up from below into whatever media you're using. In addition to these hooch buckets, we've got the round pipe hooch adapters. These adapters also just fit into the holes you make in this hydroponic system and adapt whatever pot you want to put on top of this system. So to print this end cap, I recommend using 100% infill and PETG as your filament, although you can use other materials if that's all you've got available to you. With the bottle holder, I would recommend doing whatever infill you like, probably a minimum infill of 20%, because we're actually going to be sealing this later with silicone, because not everyone's printer is going to be calibrated perfectly. And the way that I've designed this piece is so that only minimal print surface will be in contact with the water at any one time, as the pipe will be taking up most of the space within this design, and the rest we're going to seal with silicone sealant so that it doesn't leak. So PETG again, whatever infill you like, just enough to support this bottle as it's upside down full of nutrient. All right, now I'm going to slice and print all the parts that I need, and then we can get to building the system. So again, with this part, I'm just going to use Mesh Tools, which is a free download from the store, to split the model into parts, and then we can just lay out our model on our bed. So you just flip this end cap, and we can just arrange all models on the bed. I do recommend printing these separately because you'll want 100% infill for the end cap and 20% infill for the bottle holder. Let's just do both at 20%. So this will roughly take about 299 grams of filament. That's not including all of your bits and pieces. This whole system will probably take up about a kilo of print filament all up. So you're looking at about 20 bucks if you're paying $20 a kilo. So I'll just save that to removable storage, and now we can start the print. Okay, now we've got all our parts printed, we can get to building the system. Some of the other stuff we'll be using today, this is a 43mm DWV pipe. It's actually specified to be a 40mm, but they always end up being slightly larger or smaller. We're also using a drill with a Christmas tree bit. Now we're going to be using this to put our holes in our pipe. Now this next part's optional. I'll be using a reciprocating saw and some pipe fittings. I'm actually going to double the pipe back, and rather than having a longer system, I'm going to have a shorter system that's wider. These are optional. You can just use a straight piece of pipe if you want the system to be straight. I'll also be using this. This is an aquarium grade silicone sealant. The reason I'm using this is because it has no leachates. Okay, so I'm now going to lay out the system in the orientation that I want it, and I'm going to then go along, mark out and drill the holes and cut the system into the shape that I require. Okay, so I'm just cutting this pipe up. Try and get obviously the cuts as straight as possible. And at one of the ends, I'm actually going to take off the top on a diagonal. You'll see why I'm doing this in a second. So I'm just going to come at it like this, cutting no more than halfway down the pipe. Now we've got our pieces, put it together. Okay, so the piece with the diagonal taken out of it will just slide straight into this part of our hydroponic system. And as you can see, most of the print is covered by that pipe. So when we place our soft drink bottle in, it's not hindered by the pipe at all. We'll then connect up our other corners like so. I'm actually going to shorten this one because I want it closer together. There we go. Beautiful. And we can place our pots however far you would like them apart. So like so. Now we're just going to mark out where we'd like our holes. So I've got a hole here already, which is good, and that just fits over there like that. And we'll measure it out so we get them all evenly. So we're looking about 120 apart. So we'll go 120 apart. And now I can just drill those out. So they're being drilled out to about 25mm. So I'll start with a larger drill bit, and then I'll work it out with my Christmas tree bit. Now that we've got all of our holes drilled, and our whole model is pretty much ready to be silicon together, I'm going to do that. I'm going to grab my silicon, I'm going to put my end cap on, and I'm going to silicon in my soft drink holder. As you can see, the filament for this 3D print, it is gappy, and I almost guarantee there's going to be a leak within this system. I'm actually going to coat the entire inside with my silicon, and that should seal it up. So let's start by doing that. So I'm just going to silicon all the walls so that the internal of the print is completely covered. So we want to get this all the way up to wherever you think the water level is going to come in your system. All right, now I'm going to add in the silicon to the outside of the pipe and set that in place as well. I'm just going to let that dry and silicon on the end cap for the other end. This is the end cap for the other end. I've just designed it so that if you have this system sitting flat, it won't roll. Like so. Okay, while we're waiting for those to dry, we can set up our pots and our adapters. Before I do that though, I'm just going to spray paint this so that our hydroponic nutrient stays out of the light. So just remove your branding and spray paint it. See, the smart thing here would be to put in a little strip of tape so you can tell where the water's at. What I'll end up doing is I'll probably just scrape away some paint. But yeah, just put in a strip of tape before you do this, and then you can see where your water level's at. Okay, so it's now time to connect the pots we'll be using to our mini hooch adapters. So with the pots that you'll be using, just make sure they've got the most flat base you can find, because some of them have ridges along it. You want as much in contact with the adapter as possible. It depends on what size system you're going for as to what size pot you're using. So I've got a variety of taller and shorter pots. I'm just going to see what works. As well as the hooch buckets. So the hooch buckets, they don't really have that much media space, so these will probably only be good for starting seeds in. I couldn't really think of any small plants to put in there. If you have an idea of what you think would go well in these mini hooch buckets, let me know in the comments below. For these pots, we're just going to drill holes in the bottom that are slightly larger than these net cup holes. Just going to use my drill again with my Christmas tree bit. I'll start with the drill bit, put the holes in, and then work the holes out. Now, I was going to use super glue to glue the pots down, but I couldn't find any, so I'm going to use a hot glue gun to join the pots to the pot adapters. Well, let's do that. That's pretty cool. Look at that. All right, I'm going to weigh that down. How do I weigh that down? Book. Ta-da! All right, next. And another book. And another book. Oop. And we'll just wait for those to dry. Well, it's definitely beer o'clock and all our glue's dried. So let's test our system. First of all though, there is one extra step that we need to take. We'll get a painted soft drink bottle. And what we're going to do is we're going to drill a hole in the side of the bottle. Where you put this hole is going to determine the water level of the system. So keep your cap screwed on, and then just eye where the top of that bottle is sitting, and wherever you want the water level in this system, whether it's halfway up or nearly all the way up, we're going to put a hole in the side of the neck of the bottle. So you can see at the end of that system, we want to go just above the safety seal. And that will give us a really nice water level. So I'm just going to use, what's this? A 6mm drill bit. Just going to put a hole directly above the safety seal. And that should allow the nutrient out and the air to bubble back in until the water goes just above it. And that is what it looks like. So I'm just going to connect up the system like that, and that, look at that, that's solid. So now I'm going to add in some water. So I'm going to add in the water at this end, like so, and hopefully we don't have any leaks. That's a litre of water. I've got it just above halfway. This is about where I want the nutrient solution to sit. And we haven't got any leaks. How good is that? So you can see the water level in this system, and it's just there. Very cool. Okay, I'm now gonna fill up my Coke bottle and we can tip it upside down in our system. Now all I have to do is tip it upside down with my thumb over the hole, and then I can just lower it, and you can see that, oh no, that's a problem. The integrity of the bottle isn't holding shape enough. So you can see here that it's actually, if I help it, it's just taking more air in and letting more water out. And that's not good. So the plastic's not good enough. That's annoying. Okay, well that's okay because this system's designed to take all soft drink bottles. So I just have to find another soft drink bottle that's got better integrity than this one. Okay, so I found a smaller, more rigid bottle for the time being because the Coke bottles, due to the way that they're designed for internal pressure rather than external pressure, they just don't have the rigidity that I'm looking for. And when the weight of the water wants to go out, it just is just buckling and causing the system to overflow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with a few different designs for adapters for these. The first one I'll design is a wine bottle adapter so that you can put glass wine bottles into this system, and that will allow you to have larger reses because the glass is rigid and it will not buckle under the pressure of the atmosphere outside. So I'm going to just show you how the system works with this one. I'm just going to drill a hole in the side of the neck so that I can raise the water level a little bit, and then I'll show you how it works. And then we can just tip this upside down like that. And I'm just going to use this 4mm tubing to siphon the system out. Now this is going to emulate the plants transpiring the nutrients within the system and the water level dropping. We should see bubbles rise up through the res as the res tops up the system. So the system's draining. We should start to see bubbles rising up through the reservoir. Yes. Finally, actual success. How cool. Oh, that's so exciting. So you could have as large a res on top of this as you like. As long as it's a sealed container that can maintain its shape under the weight of the water that you're putting into it, that can be as large as you like. You could have a water cooler. In fact, the water cooler water bottles are made specifically this way. You might recognize the bubbles from office water coolers. All right, it works. Fantastic. I'll just raise that above the level of the siphon and we're good to go. For this system, I'll be using a 60/40 cocoa perlite. You could actually use a more rich in cocoa mixture than I am now. And I would recommend using a finer grain of perlite than I have in this mixture. But I actually do not have any cocoa available to me that's not pre-mixed. I mixed this a while ago and I can't get my hands on any hydroponic grade of cocoa at the moment. We'll be using this mixture even though it's not particularly ideal. So probably go, this is a coarse perlite. I'd go a finer perlite for this smaller system, but we'll make do with what we've got. I'm just gonna make sure that all of the net cups are filled mostly with cocoa because that's our wicking material. You don't want big chunks of perlite in there because there's not much space in those net cups and we want it to be fully available for wicking. So I'm going to go ahead and fill up all of my hooch adapter pots and my hooch buckets. And they'll just sit over the top of our system like so and wick up from the nutrient solution below. How cool is that? A miniature, self-refilling, wicking hydroponic system. I'm stoked with how this turned out, even though we didn't quite get the res we wanted, but we've learned a thing or two and we're all the better for it. So I'm gonna plant into this hydroponic system and see what I can get growing under a time-lapse camera. In the meantime, Here's one of my best mates, Seb, who's created a Hoocho themed miniatures diorama.
Hoocho, mate, I had a great time making this little miniature from your original hydroponic system. It was a bit of an experiment with a few new methods for the crafting side of things. If any of you guys out there are interested in checking out how I put this together, jump onto my channel, Seb Makes Stuff, for some crafty ways to use the 3D printer outside the garden. Once again, thanks for everything, Hooch.
So that was Seb from Seb Makes Stuff. Seb's actually a really good friend of mine, and he's been instrumental in the success of this channel. Every time I have a question about video editing or cameras or camera equipment, I go to Seb because he's a professional in the industry. So if you want well edited, well filmed miniatures content, head over to Seb's channel, Seb Makes Stuff, and you'll have a good time. All right, thank you, Seb, and thank you guys for watching another episode of Hoochos. Happy hydroponicking, and I'll see you next time on Hoochos.